This is Ogrodowski of WeAreChange.org here in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and in this video I'm going to talk about the biggest chemical attack on the American people by their very own government that will kill over 500,000 people in the next few years, and one of those people affected is myself. This all starts with the silent killer known as asbestos. It only takes one nanoparticle of asbestos to create asbestosis, which will create mesothelioma and lung cancer in people who are exposed to this chemical. Now, not many people know this, but the World Trade Center towers before 9/11 were filled with 400 tons of asbestos. The buildings were built by David and Nelson Rockefeller along with the Port Authority. Not only did the Port Authority have this huge liability, but also a huge problem on their hands because the Twin Towers were worth nothing. It would have costed the city $1.5 billion to get rid of the asbestos, and there was actual plans to demolish the building, since that would have been cheaper than actually going inside of the buildings floor by floor to remove this hazardous chemical within the building. There was actual demolition plans of the Twin Towers before 9/11 because of the asbestos. Now, who was responsible for the asbestos? Who was liable? Well, no one other than Dick Cheney himself. As CEO of Halliburton in 1998, he purchased Dredger's Industries, who was liable for the World Trade Center asbestos, which would then turn over the liability to Halliburton and Dick Cheney himself. The second person who was responsible was Larry Silverstein, who on July 24th, 2001 actually bought a 99-year lease of the World Trade Center Tower from the Port Authority. And in his lease, he has specifically stated that if there was an act of terrorism, the new owner's obligations under the lease would be void. This was his escape clause, along with this and an insurance policy that he put on the World Trade Center towers before 9/11. He has earned billions. And I myself personally investigated this, and I asked Larry Silverstein, why would he buy these white elephants that were worth nothing, that would have costed him billions of dollars just to get rid of the asbestos? Why would he make such an unwise financial move that made no sense and had people in the industry scratching their head to why he would actually do this? And of course, we got no answer at all from Lucky Larry. We asked him also why on that fateful day, when he had breakfast in Windows of the World with his daughter, with his son, who all worked at the World Trade Center, who had their daily routine of this breakfast in Windows of the World, why did all three of them not show up to work on that fateful day? Of course, stonewalled and dragged out like a criminal away from this event for even asking the questions. And of course, Larry Silverstein, even on a PBS documentary, admitting to pulling Building 7. We confronted Larry Silverstein 3 times. Now, when the buildings exploded in New York City, they sent asbestos for miles in the surrounding area, affecting everyone in New York City. And according to some estimates, there are 410,000 people who were exposed to asbestos right after 9/11. Now, of course, those numbers are a lot higher, but right after 9/11, the government came out and reassured everyone that the air was safe to breathe. There's actual documents from the EPA after studying the air at Ground Zero showing that the air was not safe to breathe. With the help of the White House, they changed that to safe to breathe. And Christy Todd Whitman, then head of the EPA, was the one responsible for this on national television, lying to everyone in the area, including all the heroes of 9/11, and ultimately caused their demise. Because of this, first responders, even some that I knew who had the proper hazmat suits and had the proper gas masks to be in that area, were told not to use hazmasks, were told to take the masks off. My friend, Greg Quibell, who I got to know, who introduced me to his family, who opened up his house to me, we became friends. Greg Quibell suffered tremendously before dying after being on the pile in New York City after 9/11. He had to fight until his death in order to get proper medical benefits so his family wouldn't be stuck with a huge medical bill because the government denied any wrongdoing, and then on top of that denied them the basic benefits that they were entitled to under their contract as city workers. The amount of disrespect, the amount of horrendous activity by this government, not only lying to its people, but screwing them over afterwards, is despicable. Greg Quibell was an amazing human being whose life was cut short. Him and hundreds of others died prematurely. Thousands are dying right now, but we have to understand this will affect us not only now, but in the next 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years. Because this asbestosis is still developing within everyone who is in the region, including myself. This is a map of the plume of the toxic smoke that came from the World Trade Center on that day. I live right here during 9/11. On the day of 9/11, there was a huge toxic plume of dust that came all over my neighborhood. You could write your name in cars with this dust. It covered everything. That smell, that dust was in my community, was in my house days, weeks, and months after 9/11. I lived in that dust after 9/11. The effects of this will hit me later on in life, as well as thousands and hundreds of thousands of other people who will also die prematurely and suffer horrible deaths. I've seen my friends die in painful, horrible ways, as the government not only denied them help, but they also denied any wrongdoing. Criminals like Christy Todd Whitman, Dick Cheney, and Larry Silverstein actually benefited from this crime, as people will suffer. This will affect everyone in that region, including myself. And knowing this is why I do what I do. This is why We Are Change exists. After finding this out, I spent every single Saturday down at Ground Zero for years, informing people. After finding out the stories of the first responders, after seeing my friends die, miserable, painful, horrible deaths, this is what started We Are Change, and this is why I do what I do. We're a fully independent news organization, and if you believe in us, invest in us on wearechange.org/donate, as we will never stop this pursuit of truth and justice. Subscribe. We're going to have a lot more important information coming here your way on We Are Change. We're going balls to the wall because there's no other option in this world that we live in. Our time on this earth is limited, and it's time to make this world a better place, and we could all do that together. One last fact: asbestos in the United States has actually not been banned and is still totally legal. When the EPA tried to ban it, supporters of the asbestos industry actually overturned the ban in a lawsuit, and it is still widely used today. This is Gradowski of WeAreChange.org here in the barrios of Caracas, Venezuela, one of the top murder capitals of the world. What am I doing here? I'm crazy. As a journalist, I try to give you stories that all the other journalists are afraid to show you. I want to show you the raw truths of exactly what's happening in this world, but I think I did too much coming here to Venezuela. I'm joined by another crazy man, the one and only Jeff Berwick of the Dollar Vigil.